Hi friends, this is my very first video hosting all by myself. I know I've done one before, that was Virginia, but this is me just by myself. So hopefully you guys enjoy hearing about my recent family vacation to Lewes, Delaware. So we left on a Saturday and then we came back on a Saturday, so we had a full 7 days of being there, which was a lot of fun. I'm not going to talk about what we did every day because some days we went to the beach and then we went back to the house and kind of hung out. And that's not super interesting. I didn't really take any videos of my family like sitting and watching a movie. So instead of, going through day by day, I'm going to be just telling you about some of my favorite things that we did and some of the highlights. One of the first things we did when we got to Lewes, well, of course we unpacked and everything. First day we went to the beach. But on Tuesday, there was a Rehoboth farmer's market, so we drove over to that, and we walked around. It was a really cute farmer's market, lots of vendors with food and delicious things that you could buy. I think Hope, my youngest sister, she is just graduated from high school. She's going to college in the fall. She bought a hat and also kombucha, so they had lots of different kinds of things for sale there. Something that was unique that we did was a lantern tour of Fort Miles and the bunker there. So Fort Miles is close by to Lewes, Delaware, and this was a military base built in the 1940s. Of course, since then it's been turned into like a museum, nice park space, but they do have a museum, and in that museum you can take tours. It starts down at this orientation building and they have an exhibit there with some artifacts from the military. And then you walk around the grounds to the museum, which is housed in an old bunker. And I gotta tell you, when we were walking, it was this beautiful, beautiful sunset. It was just the trees and the ocean and the colors. It was very pretty. And of course, the lanterns were interesting too, because it was dusk, so we were just walking around, listening to a guide tell us about the history of the park and the base. And then we went in the museum, and by then it was totally dark outside. And this was crazy for me because I had never been in a museum after hours. So it was really cool. We got to see into some different rooms that aren't normally open to the public for just random free viewing. So that was neat. And it was just a cool experience to walk around with those lanterns in the darkness. It made me feel like I was in the beginning of a Nancy Drew game, actually. After the lantern tour, we did talk to one of the guides, and she told us that the next day the museum would be open for regular hours and it's free to go in, and there would also be an artillery demonstration. So a few of us went back the next day to see the museum in light and to actually read the exhibits and learn a little bit more stuff. And then we also stayed for the artillery demonstration.
And what you will hear once he attaches the lanyard to the firing pin is a click. Now at this point in time, nothing's going to happen. But everyone listen for that click. Sometimes that breech gets hung up. It's an older gun. Everyone hear that click?
So that was interesting. It was slightly underwhelming because they only fired off one round, and it was like a lot of buildup and then it was over really fast. But it was still cool to watch. Something we did later that day, because it was really hot and humid outside, we visited a winery. It was about a mile away from where we were staying, and they had wine tastings, so we did that, and they had a lot of nice wine. My mom didn't like any, but that's just her. I liked all of it. We also toured around the grounds. We looked at the vineyards, and it was almost like a little museum that was free to go in, actually. And it was an exhibit on the history of winemaking. And then there were also some local artists displaying their art in the museum section, so that was neat. Of course, when you go to the beach, we had to visit the boardwalk. I personally could take or leave the boardwalk. I think it's overcrowded and the seagulls are scary. But we did go there for an evening. Everybody likes the ice cream and fries, so we did that. And it was pretty hot that night too. The last full day that we had there was Friday, and we did biking that day through Cape Henlopen Park. It's a really pretty park. We actually parked at the Cape May Ferry, and then we rode into the park and all around. We looked at the observation tower. It's really fun. We had to climb up all these stairs, which of course there was some complaining about it. But we made it to the top, and the views up there were really pretty. There was even some messages written in the sand, which I thought were interesting. Must be some secret code, because I personally did not understand what they were saying. But we hiked up that observation tower, and then we went to the Hawk Watch and just kind of looked at the ocean. It was a little overcast that day, but it was still a nice day for bike riding. And that about wraps up everything we did. Since it was a family vacation, we all kind of had different ideas of what we wanted to do. For example, Grace, my younger sister, or one of my younger sisters, she likes breweries a lot. We like sour beers, so we visited 2 breweries. One of them was the Crooked Hammock, and that one had really good outdoor space. It was a lot of fun. We did that earlier in the week. And then we visited the Big Oyster Brewery. They had live music, and I do have to say, the guy who was playing did play Brandy, but we were sitting at a faraway table, so I couldn't really get a clear shot of him playing, but it did make me think of our time in Boston. Yeah, so we did that brewery on our last night there. And then other than that, we went to the beach a few days. I did plenty of reading. I finished 4 books. Just lots of yummy food, lots of family time. We watched a couple movies. It was very relaxing. So I like these kinds of vacations where you can just hang out and do your own thing and spend time with each other. So that wraps up my review of what we did in Delaware. I would recommend it. This was our second time being back. The first time we were there was in 2019, and Grace, who I mentioned earlier, she went with her high school class a few times for an ecology trip to that area, so she was already familiar with it too. And I do have to say, like, the downtown Lewes area is very cute, very historically preserved. It's like a really little one-way street with coffee shops and bakeries, and so it's just a nice vacation spot. But anyway, I'm gonna wrap it up now. I hope you guys enjoyed learning about Lewes, Delaware. If you go there, you should definitely visit the winery. It's NASA Winery. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. And then also you should visit Cape Henlopen State Park. The museum is free, so check that out. But I'll see you guys next time. Jane and I are planning on doing some traveling in the near future, so stay tuned for those. See you guys later.